Thank you for pointing out that my previous video didn't have any sound, so I'm going to do a kind of re-record, but of course it's not going to be the same. Not that it matters that much, seeing as there's almost nobody watching. After that, I'm going to remove this video. I'll play it anyway, even though it's got no sound, just for the pictures. Chilling details of the paedophile's final days. Apparently, I mean, a lot of people are under the impression that Epstein didn't commit suicide, and that either he was murdered or he was just removed and taken to another country to live his life. He was employed nominally as a financial expert. He didn't seem to do a hell of a lot of work. Most of his life was spent partying, basically, kind of like a kind of adult version of a frat party or a stag party or a sleepover for horny kids, except that these people were supposed to be adults. You know what? I mean, I'm not 100% sure he didn't live the life. I mean, I'm not, he had the money, or at least he had access to the money. He was given money. He didn't, as I said, his job wasn't really, the cover story where he was a banker. That's the cover story. Now look at this cell. This supposedly is his suicide cell. This picture is taken in the daytime. You can see daylight through the window. I mean, how was he in a position to create a noose? Was he given a knife or a pair of scissors? I mean, and what happened to the surveillance videos? Why was that all odd? Why did they obscure the surveillance videos? I mean, he was supposed to be on suicide watch. At one point, they put in a big muscly guy in the cell with him. That's the official story. Although apparently nothing happened at that point. It's quite easy to put in a psycho in your cell in order to kill you in the middle of the night. Even if you're the kind of guy who can defend himself, if you put in a bodybuilding psycho with you, somebody with mental health issues, and you could actually probably get them to kill you, and then it would seem like a tragic accident. This is how they sometimes do it. So it's a very weird world we live in. For sure, Epstein's story is never covered. The truth of the story is never covered. The motivation, why he's doing these things. Why was he filming? And another thing is, surely these rich people like Bill Clinton and celebrities and so on, they have their own bodyguards and security team, Andrew and so on. How come British government officials or Andrew's security team didn't warn him about the dangers of being filmed in compromising situations? It's very funny because if you look at a lot of these Epstein photos, they're not really that sinister because, they're all smiling and they seem happy and they don't seem to be ashamed of anything. If you're ashamed of something, if you're doing something illegal, you wouldn't necessarily want to be filmed. So you see that picture of Andrew with very clearly not a child, Virginia Giuffre. That's not her real name. That's her married name. And apparently before she even got the Epstein gig, she was a masseuse at Epstein. Now you see, aha, that's it. You can hear you see that funny noise? That was the background music. They love subliminal music. Can you see this thing has been put here? Why is that? And what is it obscuring? It doesn't seem, why did they put it in front of the camera? And again, should they be allowed to do that? Should they be allowed to obscure a camera? I would have thought that whoever put the camera there, and whoever put the camera there must have a reason for doing that. You're obscuring. The whole point of surveillance cameras is that they need to survey. If you obstruct a surveillance camera, you're actually trying to withhold evidence. That would be the case even if you did it accidentally. But clearly somebody attempted to do, I mean, exactly what that board is obscuring, I don't know. Maybe nothing for all I know. So the whole Epstein story is very careful, the media are very careful not to involve Israel in any way, even though some of the evidence, a lot of the evidence actually points to direct Israeli involvement. Epstein hangs around with at least two Israeli prime ministers who visited him. And on top of that, he had a Israeli Defense Forces T-shirt. He helped Israel in various ways, sort of broking alleged security agreements with Mongolia. He also had multiple passports, including an Israeli passport. And apparently he even applied for multiple US passports, saying that he needed to travel and he was not in a position to get visas at short notice, so he had to have more than one passport. And of course, if you're Jewish, you can always say that you're at risk of anti-Semitism and that you might need a non-Jewish name and whatnot. But these celebrities, I mean, Z-listers in my view, I don't rate. Yeah, historically there's been some great actors, you know, Gary Cooper and Henry Fonda and Lee Remick and Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau and all the rest of it. You know, but these modern actors just do nothing for me at all. And I haven't been to the cinema now for 30 or 40 years. But I might possibly go to watch a retro movie, a black and white movie or something like that. I've always had very little interest in current movies and stuff. I've never seen a Star Wars film. I've never seen a Harry Potter film. I've never watched Big Brother. I'm living in a cave, basically. So tonight's Christmas Eve. I'm going to be spending Christmas alone, probably. Not for the first time. And hopefully not for the last, because even though the world's not, my life isn't particularly enjoyable, I still would like to have some years of good health ahead of me. There's always a tiny opportunity, a tiny chance that things will improve. It's not something I think is very realistic, but my life could improve at some point, who knows. But one of the things that would really help me improve my life is if there were more people out there, people in the so-called mainstream, who are willing to take a look at the world we're living in, who are willing to consider alternative explanations as to what's happening. There's the guy who supposedly shared a cell with Epstein, muscly guy showing off his muscles. He's got lots of big dogs and so on. Weird. Would you want to share a room with a guy like that? A mass murderer, apparently. So, I mean, Epstein paid the price in a way for his lifestyle. He got away with it for years and years and years. And although many of us would probably envy some aspects of his life, I don't think the sexual aspect is important. The fact that you're filming people without their consent in order to blackmail them on behalf of a Middle Eastern country, that is the problem for me. The fact that Epstein was Jewish is not really the problem. The fact that he was banging, not just, I mean, it's hard to know. Was he banging, I mean, if he was, you know, I don't know if it's an age of consent thing. Clearly, at least a few of the women people he was banging were underage. But, you know, in New York State, for example, being 18 is the legal age of consent. And many people, in many other places, it's less than that. In the UK, that would not be illegal. But should it be illegal? I mean, what are the rules? Is it because of an age gap? Is it because homosexual, heterosexual, etc., etc., etc.? I mean, I'm not here to morally judge that aspect. I've got quite a laissez-faire attitude toward that issue. I don't think it's particularly important. Perhaps I'm in a minority. We're all tricked to, you know, there's all guys there with their middle-aged, ugly, fat wives going tut tut tut, when in secret they would absolutely love to be in that situation. I mean, I have to, you know, when I was younger, I had some younger girlfriends, but what would they look like now? You know, I mean, that's the point. And of course, what do I look like now? I mean, I think I've aged quite well, frankly, but I'm still not the guy I used to be. When I was young, I was slim. Now I'm a little bit overweight, not too much, but a bit. And it's not a good look, I agree. Plus, you know, you've got eyesight issues, your hair starts to go white. Some people don't have any hair at all. So it's the future, you know. I mean, I always try and warn young people when I meet them. I say, look, you've got to realize it'll all be, your life isn't as long as you think it is. You know, you will, I guess if you're lucky, you'll get old. But getting old is not much fun, and it's the worst thing about getting old. Sorry for the lecture, by the way. I know I do tend to preach. It's just how you get treated, even though you're not really feeling any different. I mean, imagine if you woke up tomorrow and you looked in the mirror and you were like black or something, or Asian, even though you were exactly the same person you'd always been. Suddenly people would treat you and perceive you differently. And it's a bit like getting older. You're really more or less the same person you used to be, but people just treat you differently and worse. I don't get any respect whatsoever for being older. And the only combination of age which is beneficial is when you've got age and money and status. Status. You've got to have status. We live in a very, very status conscious. If you have two guys with exactly the same opinions, one of whom works for the BBC, and a lot of people criticise the BBC, rightly so, because it is shit. But believe me, 90% of people would be more impressed with opinions coming from the BBC than from some guy they met at the bus stop, simply because he worked for the BBC, including people who don't like the BBC, who claim the BBC is a den of iniquity, which of course it is. And of course people want to pay for opinion, they want to pay for analysis. I give analysis free of charge. No payment whatsoever, no monetization. I don't have any merchandise. I don't ask for donations. Not that there's any point in me asking for donations, because nobody would give any. Many of you are almost as poor as I am. Poor people, most of the truth movement, the sincere truth movement, are people on limited incomes. You know, we don't get many multi-millionaire people helping us. And the people we're told about, I mean, look at Candace. Yes, a lot of what she says is true. It's very, very good. Really impressive. But then again, why is she being allowed to have a platform? Why are they allowed her to have a platform? Well, they could just claim she's hate speech. That's what they normally do. Anything they don't like is hate speech. If you criticise them, it's hate speech. But you're encouraged to criticise Muslims. I mean, if I look at the Daily Mail's comment section, people are going, oh, you're so prejudiced, you're so racist and anti-Semitic. Then you go and look at their comments and you see what they've said about Muslims or something like that, or black people. So you notice how people are very selective in what kind of racism. Racist people complain about racism. Zionist Jews encourage people to be racist against Asian people, particularly Muslims. Right? The hypocrisy is off the charts. So this isn't exactly what I said last time. It is different in many respects. You never really get, it's like a river. You never get the same river. Every second it changes. So it is that you can never turn back the clock. But again, regardless of how good or not good my previous video was, my audience is so small. And what is slightly good is I finally managed to get over 400 followers. So I have had a few more followers. I mean, just a few. So I thought I'd been sort of permanently limited to less than 400, but now I've got more than 400. But the vast majority of these followers never get any uploads to my content. Never get any uploads. There's only about 5 or 6 people who ever comment on my channel. So with 403 followers, at least some of them should get some of my videos. Anyway, my 15 minutes is up, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas. Thank you for your time.